home and native land, Toronto's newest pulp culture podcast, covering your favorite comics, collectibles, media, nerderific origin stories, and more. Hosted by your northern neighbor, Joey Pangolinin. Here it is, nerdos and nerdettes, Comic Sync.
Welcome back, nerdos and nerdettes. It's Joey from Comics Inc., and I am here with Heroes World's Andre Greenidge. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Cool. So, as I said before, Heroes World, Markham, Ontario. It's really, really super close to the highway. So, if you're ever in need of a comic fix, you know where to go now. What's the intersection here again?
We're right at Highway 7 and Warden. If you're looking for the exact street address, it's 8601 Warden Avenue. But if you're at that intersection, there's only one plaza, and we are right in it.
That's right. You won't miss it because there's a super, oh my god, the McDonald's here, super crazy busy. Every single time I visit, it is a lineup. It's like Beyonce works there or something, taking orders. It's nuts all the time. So thanks for being in the podcast.
Yeah.
I wanted to speak a little bit about what's going on in the Marvel and DC. And as we were talking about Image is just wowing me with so many different things right now. I'm impressed with Paper Girls. I'm impressed with Saga. And I'm about to, I think Rat Queens is with them as well, right?
Yep, Rat Queens is Image.
Yeah.
There was just a new book this week that just came out called Versus VS, and that's art and story by Saad Ribic.
Yeah.
Fantastic book. There's so many good things from Image. Black Monday Murders, Kill or Be Killed.
Kill or Be Killed is the one that's a little bit political, right?
It's very political, very, very good story. Image, it's, everybody by now, if you're into comics, should know the story about the rebels who left Marvel and DC, the artists.
If you haven't, I suggest you go to Sci-Fi's YouTube channel. There's a great documentary there.
And these guys, these young artists basically said, we're going to leave the big companies, and they formed the company of Image, based solely on art. And if you go back and read some of those comics, they weren't very well written, but the art then was fantastic. Yeah, mm-hmm. And then you fast forward to now, and Image is literally quite the opposite. Not that the art is bad, but it is a writer's paradise. It is a IP creator owned just safe house. If you're a comic writer and you want to own your characters, your IP, you go to Image, and there is so many good books with Image on the market right now. You mentioned Paper Girls, and I gotta say, Paper Girls is probably my favorite book on the market.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, month after month.
And it's not a superhero book.
It's not a superhero book, but this book is fantastic. I can't say enough about it. And I think the coolest thing about Paper Girls and Image in general is, right now, I'll speak for Heroes World, my store, is that we do get an older clientele. Like, I would probably say my minimum customer coming 30s. is, I'd probably say, mid-20s and up. And stuff. So when they come in, if they're new to comics, I can ask them, hey, what do you like on TV? What are you watching? Or what are you reading novel-wise? Or what catches you?
Feel,
And if they tell me stuff, like, a lot of the first stuff I recommend to them is Image. 2 reasons. A, it doesn't have, a lot of the Image books don't have that burden of such a legacy that you've got to go back to understand how come Iron Man is this and how come Hulk is that, and which version of Thor am I reading. Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, if you want to get into this Image book, there's 4 trade paperbacks. Start the new one. The first ones are usually at a discounted price. Like, I think they do the first trades for like $9.99 US.
Yeah, like a 1 to 6 issue kind of thing.
And it's super inexpensive. It's a great way to get in. And then usually how they publish their books is they do a story arc. They take a month hiatus, and then they're back with another issue. And in that hiatus, the trade comes out. So if anybody comes in, they could be like, I caught up on the trades. Let me get the issues. Paper Girls does that. Saga does that. So these are books that people can easily jump onto, and books that I think are super relevant, because some people, they just want that other comic book fix that isn't superheroes.
Yeah, and it's overwhelming sometimes, because certainly the first time I started, we were talking this morning, was Death of Superman, right? I mentioned this in another podcast before, but to me, I was kind of like, holy crap, that's allowed to happen in the comics, you know?
Yes.
And then after that, years after that, when I was going to, like, my back issues, and a friend of mine had said about, like, the death of Gwen Stacy kind of stuff, and then I read it, and then I realized, oh my god, this thing is being written in, like, the 60s.
Yeah.
And I was, at that point, like, was that allowed to happen? The kids are the ones reading,
Yeah.
and, you know, these kinds of stories. So I kind of thought there's something about comics that I think is, there's a stigma to it, sure, but there's a lot of hidden gems. There's something for everyone.
There's the coolest thing about comics is the good comic is something that, you know, will last the test of time for their storytelling. So yeah, art styles will change, but when you get a story, you know, that captures character and captures human feeling and emotion, like the death of Gwen Stacy. Like, I don't know if, you know, if people have never had the chance to read that. I think Marvel has it in trade, but I'm telling you, like, when you read that story and you see what, you know, young Peter Parker did, like, you know, he's trying to save the love of his life, you know, and he's doing it, and he makes a mistake, and it is the worst mistake you can possibly make.
Sure, yeah.
And it's heartbreaking because, you know, the Goblin pushed her off, but he didn't think of the physics. The one time Peter didn't remember the science, and he pulled her. He fired the web, pulled her, and I'm like, that's so tragic. When you talk about the loss that Peter has suffered through, that would break any human being, you know, at all, and it's so devastating. And I will say, like, you know, unfortunately, the Spider-Man movies have never captured that
yet.
And I don't think people who read the comics, they don't realize that these characters, again, when well written, like, heart and soul are in these books will move you, and when they do, it's like I said, it's something that anybody and everybody can read and enjoy for the story. And you said there's a stigma. Some people think, oh, comics are, you know, they're just punch, kick, bam, pow, you know. And no, they're just definitely
they're all
not
66
that.
Batman stuff.
Yes, that's exactly what people think, you know. And I would challenge them to read something that is.
Has meat to it, has depth to it,
and has stood the test of time.
Yeah,
right?
And that was so that one of the earlier graphic novels that I read too was Kingdom Come.
Amazing.
You know, Justice, like, that kind of, like, Alex Ross stuff. I mean, what captured me really was the art.
Yep.
But then I read it, and then I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, this is actually a little bit more like a cinematic reading experience more than anything.
And again, I think you've hit on a couple great ones, because Kingdom Come is one of those books that I can always put in the hands of somebody who doesn't read comics and doesn't know about the heroes. But again, the journey of the man, like in Kingdom Come, it's like, it wasn't about the heroes, it was about the man, like, who will save humanity, and it's not the humans, and it's not the superhumans, it's man will judge man is responsible for that. And of course, it's got all the, you know, the great art and the fancy trappings and stuff like that, but at the core, that's what the story is.
Absolutely.
And most people get blown away by it.
You get to, like, feel the humanity of the superheroes. You know, at that point, if you haven't read, so for the listeners, if you haven't read a comic book yet, or if you haven't touched up on a trade paperback or back issues, but you want to kind of know superheroes more than what you know them in CW shows, in movies, you know, and not to crack on any of those things, because I watch some of those CW shows as well, but there's something more to stories like Kingdom Come, like Justice. I'm even going to throw it out there, but Red Sun.
Superman Red Sun, great book,
And sorry, what was the other one? All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
You know, so talking about DC, that kind of stuff. Another Alex Ross great, The Marvels.
Marvels, fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I took a hiatus, and then I read The Marvels, and then I took another hiatus because I was like, I don't know what's going to replace that.
Yes, sometimes you read something that is so good, you're afraid that you will never read anything else that good.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of one of the strengths of comics, because all you have to do is be willing to look past your personal boundaries and try something different. Because all of a sudden, someone will say, have you tried this by Image? I know you've read all these superhero stuff. And then, what we do here, again, you say, okay, you've read the superhero stuff. You might be a little bit tired of it, or maybe you're getting a little bored with it. But here, let me give you some Image stuff. And then people are like, oh, wow, I didn't think a
even
comic
know that
could
was
be
a
like
comic
that.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one of my favorite ones to come out recently, Tokyo Ghost. Fantastic read and super relevant. The artist and creator of it, Sean Murphy, he's right now doing Batman the White Knight. But
I've
in
been
this
hearing
one,
real great things about that.
That's
actually.
an incredible ride right now as well. But Tokyo Ghost, such a great read. It's 2 trade paperbacks, or I think it was 12 issues. But yeah, it was something that was super cool, and it's different, So again, as long as you're willing to every now and again exit your comfort zone, I think you will always find something in comics that will satisfy you. But sometimes it's just about finding where to look, or talking to somebody that you might not talk to, or like just as simple as like what you're doing. You are pointing people to different stores as a comic book fan, or a pop culture fan in Toronto or in the GTA. We are inundated with a whole bunch of comic stores. Yeah, sure, you might drive a little out of your way, but everyone you go to, they're going to have their own personalities, and those personalities are going to be able to say, I really dig this comic book. Have you tried it? And if you haven't, I would recommend sometimes taking somebody's word at it. Or, if you're only online, maybe you follow that reviewer that you agree with their opinion and stuff. But I think you've got to sometimes, you get out and trust somebody, because for what we do at Heroes World, it's like I have one job. My job is to make sure that you, the customer, leave with something that you're going to be happy with.
Right,
if that's a comic book, if that's a board game, if that's a miniature, a Gundam model, that's my job. Because guess what? I want you to be happy, and I want you to come back.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to sell you something that I think is half-assed. I think first of all, I'm not
you.
Yeah, I'm not going to carry something that I think is also not worth somebody's time. But if you give a little to me, meaning you tell me what you like, what you've read in the past, what you watch, or it doesn't have to be me, it could be my staff, I'm guaranteed we can find something that you're going to like and appreciate, and maybe you remember that and say, hey, you know what, I was at that store and they recommended this book and I picked it up, and I'll tell you, like, that is the most rewarding thing for me. I have a customer, and she comes I think twice a year. And she says, "You haven't led me astray yet on my graphic novels.
So
give me the lowdown." And she picks up her books and makes sure to stop by. I think she actually works overseas, but when she's coming to visit, she picks up. Yeah, this is her store. And sometimes it's as simple as getting an email message. One of my young customers, they send me a message that was the best comic I've ever read. Thank you for recommending that.
Nice.
So that's the thing. You know what? I'm not. I don't live in a castle. I don't live in a mansion and stuff.
Sure.
But I have a rewarding job that way, and I feel that if I'm able to spread that wealth and that love of comics, like comics is my thing. Like of anything in the store that I sell,
is interchangeable with the word comics.
With comic books, yeah.
That's exactly how people think about me too.
If you cut me, I bleed old school newsprint and
like
dot matrix
pulp pages on your muscles
coming out. Yeah.
So
I just want people to love it. And you mentioned the CW shows, and you mentioned all the the movies and stuff like that, and it's really cool to see all these people like loving the material.
Yeah.
But I tell you, nothing for
Nothing
me
is
will
like for
ever
reading.
replace holding a comic book, turning that page. And while I love trades, and I think they're great, there's nothing like reading that issue, and at the end you don't know how is Batman getting out of this.
Yeah, and you gotta wait till like next Wednesday.
Month. Yeah, and
my
and the
gosh.
best part, again, because I'm here every Wednesday, it's talking to the customer, talking to the readers, and they're like, I'm like, yo, did you read Batman? Like, yeah, how is he gonna get out of this? What happened? Who did we get to chew on it for like 3 weeks, and then it comes out, and then
and then another thing
happens, and while it's great in that trade, but the trade is just you turn the next page,
and then you find out,
and then so you don't
ends.
have the build up,
exactly.
right? But yeah, so if you're not reading a monthly book, just find one, because I tell you, nothing replaces a good cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And or a well written comic that's going to give you 22 pages of story. and the reason to come back next month.
Yeah.
Not just because you love the artist. They've written it so well that you're coming back,
For the
next
words,
month,
yeah,
and you
for the
are
story.
going to be blown away.